Hey, welcome to Cap Hill for this special edition because this is usually my off day. So this is definitely a special edition Cap Hill opening for the vice presidential debate tonight. Hello to everybody in the clouds and those of you who haven't dropped down yet. Oh, here we go. Hey, what's up, Anthony? How you doing? Thank you. Just trying to do what I can, of course, so we can. And I know other people are doing it and what have you, but yeah, this is what I do. This is why I'm here. So we're gonna do it. Hey, Auntie Donna, how you doing? How are you? Hey, Nana Hawkins, what's going on? Amon Jordan, what's going on, brother? I'm sure you're a brother. Hey, Keisha, hey, what's going on? Now, listen, I know other people are doing it, but we all have our own different interpretations on how we do it and how we work it. So it's all good. It is what it is. There's only one Cap Hill, and it happens to be here. So with that said, I am going to screen share what I have, and we're just going to roll with that. But before I actually do all that, of course, you know that the president has been quote unquote cured of coronavirus. I guess. He's also stopped the talks on the stimulus. So who knows what we're going to do now as far as the people who actually need it. And, a lot of other things are going on. But let's just get into it before we get started. We still have a couple of minutes. So everybody, welcome. Wonder Woman, welcome. Nice to see you. Anybody else in the clouds? Hello, clouds. You hear me? The balcony. Welcome. It is nice to see you. So I'm gonna just leave it here for a moment. I'm gonna go back and widen the screen a little bit so we don't have to see everybody else. That works for me. Doop-a-doop. Yeah, that works for me. And yeah. Let me get situated here and get the rest of my stuff up. Nope, not you. Wrong one. All right. Cool. Well, that's not the one I wanted, but it'll do. So hopefully everybody's had a good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's had a decent evening and it hasn't been too bad. All right, and in a second, I'll take the mute off and we'll be able to listen together. I just wanted to make sure everybody get in, get comfortable, get your glass if you need be. I have mine already. Of whatever you're drinking, be it Kool-Aid or whatever, because we may need it not as much as we did the last time, but still, there's still Mike Pence, so you might need a little bit. So like I said, I hope everybody's having a great evening. Hey, what's up, Brother Nate? How you doing? Nice to see you.
Please welcome the first print journalist to be the solo moderator of one of the general election debates, Washington Bureau Chief of USA Today, Susan Page.
Hey, welcome. And congratulations, you have scored the most exclusive tickets in the United States. Hamilton has nothing on the Commission on Presidential Debates when it comes to exclusive tickets. I want to offer a special welcome to Vice President Pence.
No, I'm on C-SPAN, actually, Keisha.
And
I don't do
Senator Kamala Harris's family.
The others. I just like to get to it.
Who are seated right up there.
All of the extra kind of back and forth with the commentators. I usually watch that afterwards.
We're glad that you're here. But this debate is not about you, and it's not about me. It's about the millions of Americans who are going to be watching it. And that's why I'm going to ask you for your help. I'm going to ask you for your silence. I'm going to ask you during the debate not to cheer or to boo or to hiss or to laugh, because that is distracting for the people we are really staging this debate to reach. There will be 2 times when you can applaud. That will be when I announce the 2 candidates on the stage. They'll come on the stage simultaneously. That'll be a time to applaud. And then applaud again at the very end of the debate. But if you could keep restrain your enthusiasm between those 2 times, I'd appreciate it. And if you could send me a little good karma, that would also be appreciated, but quietly. I'm going now to sit down and get settled and turn my back to you, but not in a rude way. And I'll see you on the other side. Thanks again for being here.
What else do I need? Sometime today, people.
Jesus Christ.
Could we please? Shouldn't they have somebody out here? Like, let's go, let's go. We're waiting, we're waiting. So who's ready to just see Kamala like bust through the doors? I'm just waiting for this moment right here. That's it. That's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for that moment. All right, let the games begin. Hey, Patty Duke. Hey, Queen Diva. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Nice to see you. Welcome to everybody. Welcome, welcome. For those of you in the balcony, welcome. If you're in the balcony, please make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Please, please, please make sure you do that. I don't know why it'd be like more people in the chat than it'd be thumbs up. Come on, if you come to somebody's place, especially Capitol Hill, you definitely want to give it a thumbs up. Thank you very much. Oh, let's just get to it already. Come on. And I'm sure this one will be better than the last one. Hopefully, let's hope. Well, I'm sure Kamala will be better than Joe in this regard, because this is what she does. Lord knows what Mike Pence is going to do, but we shall see. Okay, well, can we get 2 more thumbs up, please? Thank you. 17 people in here with 15 thumbs up. Just please make sure you hit the thumbs up button on your way in. It don't take much. It don't cost much. Okay, and you're entitled. That's how you feel. You're definitely entitled. Maybe it won't be going anywhere. Because I don't know when the last time it was great, especially for a person of color. You tell me that. Let's go, let's go, let's go. All right. So we're going to probably hear stuff, of course, about the pandemic, about where the economy is where it is right now, where it's supposed to be moving in the next term of Trump and Pence, or in a new administration of Biden and Harris. Of course, I'm sure they're going to talk about the president's coronavirus diagnosis and all of that. They're definitely going to talk about his lack of leadership. I'm sure some racial things are going to get brought up because, of course, Trump has been pushing that Kamala Harris is not American, kind of the same little thing that he did with Barack Obama. So I wouldn't be surprised if that comes up. But this should be interesting. And I'm sure it'll be more of a debate than the presidential one. But then again, only time will tell. Excuse me. I'm not even from the U.S. Okay. Well, then, I mean, what's the point of you being here then? But thank you. I mean, it is entertainment for everyone, but I mean, you even know what you're doing here with yourself. Oh my gosh. What in the world? All right, 9:02. Let's go. Let's get it. Let's go. Let's get it. Let's go. I am. Oh, sure. No problem. No problem. I mean, other people are streaming it too, but again, what God has for you is for you, and can't nobody take that from you. So always know that no matter what someone else may do to try and block your blessing, they can never block what God has for you because it's for you. And the only person that can block it or stop it is you. So please know that. And this is what I do almost all the time if I'm not just doing a kind of let your hair down thing. So it will always be something political, even if it happens to be on the other end. It will always be something political and letting us know what's going on outside of the bubble of entertainment and TV and reality shows that we watch and get involved in, because the real world is happening. So yeah, definitely. Hey, Kim, how you doing? Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Oh, thanks.
Good evening. From the University of Utah in Salt Lake City, welcome to the first and only vice presidential debate of 2020.
Yep, that's
sponsored by the Nonpartisan Commission on Presidential Debates. I'm Susan Page of USA Today. It is my honor to moderate this debate, an important part of our democracy. In Kingsbury Hall tonight, we have a small and socially distant audience, and we've taken extra precautions during this pandemic. Among other things, everyone in the audience is required to wear a face mask, and the candidates will be seated 12 feet apart. The audience is enthusiastic about their candidates, but they've agreed to express that enthusiasm only twice, at the end of the debate, and now when I introduce the candidates. Please welcome California Senator Kamala Harris and Vice President Mike Pence.
Come on. Let's go, Miss Harris. Boo, nobody cares about him. Let's get started. Hey, Jay Parrish, how you doing?
Senator Harris and Vice President Pence, thank you for being here. We're meeting as President Trump and the First Lady continue to undergo treatment in Washington after testing positive for COVID-19. We send our thoughts and prayers to them for their rapid and complete recovery and for the recovery of everyone afflicted by the coronavirus. The two campaigns and the Commission on Presidential Debates have agreed to the ground rules for tonight.
How about the hearts and prayers for the families that lost people to COVID?
One note, no one in either campaign or at the Commission or anywhere else has been told in advance what topics I'll raise or what questions I'll ask.
Yes, with the plexiglass.
Will be divided into 9 segments of about 10 minutes each. I'll begin a segment by posing a question to each of you. Sometimes the same question, sometimes a different question on the same topic. You will then have 2 minutes to answer without interruption by me or the other candidate. Then we'll take 6 minutes or so to discuss the issue. At that point, although there will always be more to say, we'll move on.
Oh, are they?
Next topic.
Oh, okay.
We want a debate that is lively, but Americans also deserve a discussion that is civil.
Hey, what's up, Mika?
These are tumultuous times, but we can and will have a respectful exchange about the big issues facing our nation. Let's begin with the ongoing pandemic that has cost our country so much. Senator Harris, the coronavirus is not under control. Over the past week, Johns Hopkins reports that 39 states have had more COVID cases over the past 7 days than in the week before. 9 states have set new records. Even if a vaccine is released soon, the next administration will face hard choices. What would a Biden administration do in January and February that a Trump administration wouldn't do? Would you impose new lockdowns for businesses and schools and hotspots? A federal mandate to wear masks? You have 2 minutes to respond without interruption.
Thank you, Susan. Well, the American people have witnessed what is the greatest failure of any presidential administration in the history of our country.
We sure
Here are the
have.
facts. 210,000 dead people in our country
Mm.
just the last several months. Over 7 million people who have contracted this disease. 1 in 5 businesses closed. We're looking at frontline workers who have been treated like sacrificial workers. We are looking at over 30 million people who in the last several months had to file for unemployment. And here's the thing. The vice president and the president were informed about the nature of this pandemic. They were informed that it's lethal in consequence, that it is airborne, that it will affect young people, and that it
Very
would
true.
be contracted because it is airborne. And they knew what was happening and they didn't tell you. Can
Right.
you imagine if you knew on January 28th, as opposed to March 13th, what they knew, what you might have done to prepare? They knew and they covered it up.
Right.
The president said it was a hoax. They minimized the seriousness of it. The president said, you're on one side of his ledger if you wear a mask, you're on the other side of his ledger if you don't. And in spite of all of that, today they still don't have a plan.
That's right.
They still don't have a plan. Well, Joe Biden does. And our plan is about what we need to do around a national strategy for contact tracing, for testing, for administration of the vaccine, and making sure that it will be free for all. That is the plan that Joe Biden has and that I have, knowing that we have to get a hold of what has been going on, and we need to save our country. And Joe Biden is the best leader to do that. And frankly, this administration has forfeited
Thank you,
their
Senator.
right to re-election based on this.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, more than 210,000 Americans have died of COVID-19 since February. The U.S. death toll as a percentage of our population is higher than that of almost every other wealthy nation on earth. For instance, our death rate is 2.5 times that of Canada next door. You head the administration's coronavirus task force. Why is the U.S. death toll as a percentage of our population higher than that of almost every other wealthy country?
Yeah,
And you
please
have 2
explain
minutes
that
to
one.
respond without interruption.
Susan, thank you. And I want to thank the Commission and the University of Utah for hosting this event. And Senator Harris, it's a privilege to be on the stage with you. Our nation's gone through a very challenging time this year. But I want the American people to know that from the very first day, President Donald Trump has put the health of America first.
That's a lie.
Before there were more than 5 cases in the United States, all people who had returned from China, President Donald Trump did what no other American president had ever done. And that was he suspended all travel from China, the second largest economy in the world.
Oh.
Now, Senator Joe Biden opposed that decision. He said it was xenophobic and hysterical. But I can tell you, having led the White House Coronavirus Task Force, that decision alone by President Trump bought us invaluable time to stand up the greatest national mobilization since World War II. And I believe it saved hundreds of thousands of American lives. Because with that time, we were able to reinvent testing. More than 115 million tests have been done today. We were able to see to the delivery of billions of supplies so
Right.
our doctors and nurses had the resources
Very
that
true.
they needed. And we began
Only the wealthy
really before
and the
month of
elite.
February was our to develop a vaccine and to develop medicines and therapeutics and saving lives all along the way. And under President Trump's leadership, Operation Warp Speed, we believe we'll have literally tens of millions of doses of vaccine before the end of this year.
So it's the same
The
reason
reality
why
is when
he
you look at the
underplayed
plan,
it, right?
reads an awful lot like what President Trump and I and our task force have been doing every step of the way. And quite frankly,
Seriously?
when I look at their plan that talks about advancing testing, creating new PPE, developing a vaccine, it looks a little bit like plagiarism, which is something that I knows a little bit about. I think the
Oh
American
my
people know
God.
this is a president who has put the
Thank you,
health
Vice
of America first, and the American people, I believe with my heart, can be
Thank you,
proud
Vice
of the
Seriously?
sacrifices they have made to save
Thank you,
countless
Vice
American lives.
Okay, that's 3 times she
Senator
had to say
Harris.
that.
Would you like to respond?
Absolutely,
Absolutely. I mean,
right.
whatever the vice president is claiming the administration has done, clearly it hasn't worked.
And it's a
When you're
lie.
looking at over 210,000 dead bodies in our country, American lives that have been lost, families that are grieving that loss. And you know, the vice president is the head of the task force
Hmm.
and knew on January 28th how serious this was. And then thanks to Bob Woodward,
Get him.
we learned that they knew about it. And then when that was exposed, the vice president said, when asked, well, why didn't you all tell anybody? He said, because the president wanted people to remain calm. So no, but Susan, this is important.
Susan,
And I want to add,
yeah.
that if, Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
I
I'm speaking.
Yeah, you
So
have
I
15 more
wanna-
seconds, and then we'll give the vice president a
Thank you.
chance to
So I want to ask the American people, how calm were you when you were panicked about where you're going to get your next roll of toilet paper? How calm were you when your kids were sent home from school and you didn't know when they could go back? How calm
Thank
were
you.
you
Thank
when
you,
your
Senator
children
Harris.
couldn't see your parents because you were afraid they could kill them?
Let's give Vice President Pence a chance to respond. Vice President Pence, you have 1 minute to
You know,
respond.
there's not a day gone by that I haven't thought of every American family that's lost a loved one.
Really? You don't
I want
act
all of
like
you
it.
to know that you'll always be in our hearts and in our prayers.
Right. Of course you
When
will.
you say what the American people have done over these last 8 months hasn't worked, that's a great disservice to the sacrifices the American people have made.
Well, if it worked, honey, there would not be
If I may finish
200,000
that.
people dead if it
The
worked.
reality is, Dr. Fauci said everything that he told the president in the Oval Office, the president told the American people. Now, President Trump, I will tell you, has boundless confidence in the American people, and he always spoke with confidence that we'd get through this together. But when you say it hasn't worked, when Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx and our medical experts came to us in the second week of March, they said if the president didn't take the unprecedented step of shutting down roughly half of the American economy, that we could lose 2.2 million Americans. That's the reality.
Thank you.
They also
Thank you,
said
Vice
to us if we
That's
did
still
everything right,
possible.
Susan,
What are you
we could
talking
still
about?
lose more than 200,000 Americans.
It's still very
Vice President,
One
possible.
life lost is too many, Susan.
If one life lost is too many, we've already lost too many.
The sacrifices that they have made. putting
Come on,
health of their
Pence.
family,
Come
their
better.
neighbors first, our doctors, our nurses, our first
Thank you, Vice
responders.
President Pence.
And I'm going to speak up on behalf of what the American people have done.
Vice President Pence, you were in the front row in a Rose Garden event 11 days ago, what seems to have been a super spreader event for senior administration and congressional officials. No social distancing.
Sure wasn't. No mask
And now
wearing.
a cluster of coronavirus cases among those who were there. How can you expect Americans to follow the administration's safety guidelines to
Right.
protect themselves from COVID
I'll
when
wait.
you at the White House have not been doing so?
Well, the American people have demonstrated over the last 8 months that when given the facts, they're willing to put the health of their families and their neighbors and people they don't even know first.
Really?
President
What
Trump
American
and I have
people are we
great
talking
confidence in the American people that
Same American
their
people that
ability
flip out
to take that
at
information
Walmart because they've
and
been
put it
told
into
to put a
practice.
mask on in order
In the
to
height of
shop.
the epidemic, when we were losing a heartbreaking number of 2,500 Americans a day, we surged resources to New Jersey and New York and New Orleans. And
Did
Detroit.
you?
We told the American
And you
people
also
what we could do. The
confiscated
American people made the sacrifice.
PPE
When the outbreak
equipment
of the
from
Sun
other
Belt happened this
states.
summer, again, Americans stepped forward. But the reality is the work of the President of the United States goes on. The vacancy on the Supreme Court of the United States has come upon us, and the president introduced Judge Amy.
You don't want to
There-
talk about that
Thank you,
one.
Vice
At
President
that,
Pence.
if I may say, that Rose Garden event.
How you doing,
there's
TC?
regular
Welcome.
speculation about it. My wife
Linda,
and
how you
I
doing?
were
Welcome,
honored
welcome.
to Be there. Many of the people who were at that event, Susan, actually were tested
Yes.
for coronavirus,
Yeah,
and it was an outdoor event, which. all
and
of
that's
us
BS
clearly-
because clearly there's no way they could have been tested, and then all of a sudden everybody pop up. The whole administration pop up with COVID. Yeah,
Make
right.
choices in the best interest of their health.
Some of the people
Joe
weren't even
Biden
tested.
and Kamala Harris consistently talk about mandates, and not just mandates with the coronavirus, but the government takeover of health care.
Thank you. Thank
The
you. Vice
Green
President.
New Deal, all government control. We're about freedom and respecting the freedom of the American people.
Come
Let's
on,
talk about
come
respecting the
on.
American people.
Let's
You
talk
respect
about
the
it.
American people when you tell them the truth. You respect the American people when you have the courage
Which we've
to be a
always
leader,
done.
speaking of those things that you may not
I'm
want
just
people to
saying.
hear, but they need to hear so they can protect themselves. But this administration stood on information that if you had as a parent, if you had as a worker known you didn't have enough money saved up, and now you're standing in a food line
Talk
because
about it.
of the ineptitude
Talk
of
about
an
it.
administration that was unwilling to speak the truth to the American
You
people.
better preach it.
So let's talk about caring about the American people. The American people have had to sacrifice far too much because
Sure
of the
have.
incompetence of this administration. It is asking too much of the people.
Susan, we talk
No,
about
Vice
It is asking too
That's
much
a
of the
fact.
people. That they would not be equipped with the information they need to help themselves to protect
Susan,
their parents
President-
and their
I'm sorry.
children.
Kamala Harris, Senator Harris, I'm sorry.
It's fine, I'm calm.
No, you're Senator Harris to me. For life to get back to normal, Dr. Anthony Fauci and other experts say
Mm-mm-mm.
that most of the people who can be vaccinated need to be vaccinated. But half of Americans now say they wouldn't take a vaccine if it was released now. If the Trump administration approves a vaccine before or after the election, should Americans take it, and would you take it?
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
I'm not taking it. Right.
Vice President Pence, there have been a
Who the
lot of
hell trusts that
revelations
man?
from
Come
this
on.
pandemic. In recent days, the
Nobody's
president's
taking
diagnosis of COVID-19 has underscored the importance of the job that you hold and that you are seeking. That's our second topic tonight. It's the role of the vice president. One of you will make history on January 20th. You will be the vice president to the oldest president the United States has ever had. Donald Trump will be 74 years old on Inauguration Day. Joe Biden will be 78 years old. That already has raised concerns among some voters, concerns that have been sharpened.
I don't see
by
how.
President
They're
Trump's
both old.
hospitalization in
Period.
recent days.
Like
Vice
4 years
President
makes a
Pence,
damn difference.
We had a conversation.
Old is
We
old.
reached an agreement with President Trump about safeguards or procedures when it comes to the issue of presidential disability. And if not, do you think you should? You have 2 minutes without interruption.
Well, Susan, thank you, although I would like to go back.
Oh,
I think
God.
we need to move on.
But I would
Tell
like to
her.
go back because the reality is.
'Cause you can't help
we have
it.
a vaccine, Senator, in record time, in unheard of time, in less than a year.
See, that's all they have to talk
5
about. They don't have
companies
nothing else to
in
talk
phase
about.
3 clinical trials.
Hey, what's up,
Right
Rebel?
now
How you
producing
doing?
Tens of millions of doses. So the fact that you continue to undermine public.
They have
confidence
nothing
in the
else to talk
vaccine,
about.
If the vaccine emerges during the Trump administration, I think is unconscionable. And Senator, I just ask you, stop playing politics with people's lives.
Mm-mm. Wrong move.
We will have a
Wrong
vaccine,
move,
we
brother.
believe, before the end of this year. And it will have the capacity to save countless American lives. And your continuous undermining of confidence in a vaccine is
He's
just-
undermining the whole system
Let me also
constantly.
say, the reality
Come on,
is when we
Pence.
talk about failure in this administration.
Please come
we
with
have
some
to know what
facts.
failure looks like in a pandemic.
What?
It's 2009. Swine flu arrived in the United States.
You're not going to talk
Thankfully,
about
it was
swine flu.
not
You're
being
not
as
going to
lethal
talk about
as the
Ebola. You're not going to talk about any of those.
When Joe Biden was vice president of the United States.
Because you can talk about how many people were
7.5 million
infected.
People contracted the swine flu. 60 million Americans contracted the swine flu.
Okay.
If the swine flu had been as lethal as the coronavirus in 2009, Joe Biden was vice president, we would have lost.
How many people died?
His own chief of staff, Ron Klain, would say last year that it was pure luck that they did, quote, everything possible wrong. And we learned from that. They left the strategic national stockpile empty. They left an empty and hollow plan, but we still learned from it. And I think the American people, I'm not saying anything.
Vice President
Your time is up, dude.
Senator, please
Thank you, Vice
stop
President
undermining
Pence.
confidence in a vaccine.
Senator Harris, let me ask you the same question that I asked Vice President Pence, which is, have you had a conversation or reached
She has
an
no
agreement with
choice.
Vice
Hey,
President Biden
Fifi TV, what's going
about
on?
safeguards or procedures
Nice to see you.
when it comes to the issue of presidential disability? And if not, and if you win the election next month, do you think you should? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So let me tell you, first of all, the day I got the call from Joe Biden, it was actually a Zoom call, asking me to serve with him on this ticket was probably one of the most memorable days of my life. I thought about my mother, who came to the United States at the age of 19, gave birth to me at the age of 25 at Kaiser Hospital in Oakland, California. And the thought that I'd be sitting here right now, I know would make her proud. She must be looking down on this. Joe and I were raised in a very similar way. We were raised with values that are about hard work, about the value and the dignity of public service, and about the importance of fighting for the dignity of all people. And I think Joe asked me to serve with him because, I have a career that included being elected the first woman district attorney of San Francisco, where I created models of innovation for law enforcement in terms of reform of the criminal justice system. I was elected the first woman of color and Black woman to be elected Attorney General of the state of California, where I ran the second largest Department of Justice in the United States, second only to the United States Department of Justice. And there I took on everything from transnational criminal organizations to the big banks that were taking advantage of homeowners to for-profit colleges that were taking advantage of veterans. And then, of course, now I serve in the United States Senate as only the second Black woman ever elected.
Hey, Nikki, how you doing?
Senate. I serve on the Senate Intelligence Committee, where I've been in regular receipt of classified information about threats to our nation and hotspots around the world. I've traveled the world. I've met with our soldiers in war zones. And I think Joe has asked me to serve with him because he knows that we share a purpose, which is about lifting up the American people. And after the 4 years that we have seen of Donald Trump unifying our country around our common values and principles.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Neither President Trump nor Vice President Biden has released a sort of detailed health information that had become the modern norm until the 2016 election. And in recent days, President Trump's doctors have given misleading answers.
I believe there's like a light
that
is go green when they start their question and red when their time is up.
Voters deserve to know. Vice President Pence, would you like to go first?
Well, Susan, thank you. And
if you talk about this goddamn vaccine again,
on behalf of the president and the first lady, how moved we've all been.
By what?
The outpouring of prayers and concern for the president. And I do believe it's emblematic of the prayers and the concern that ushered forth for every American impacted by the coronavirus.
Oh, please.
The care the president received at Walter Reed Hospital,
top notch.
Doctors was exceptional.
Yeah.
And the transparency that they practiced all along the way will continue.
No,
the American
it
people
hasn't.
have a right to know about the health and well-being of their president, and will continue to do that.
Oh.
But I'm just extremely grateful and was more than a little moved.
Can you get your whole head out of the president's ass for a moment and answer the question?
And I also want to congratulate you, as I did on that phone call, on the historic nature of your nomination. I never expected to be on this stage 4 years ago, so I know the feeling. But the reality is, we've got an election before the American people in the midst of this challenging year. And the stakes have never been higher.
Thank you.
The choices
I want to give Senator Harris a chance to
Oh
respond to
my
the same
God.
question I asked, which is, do voters have a right
Please.
to know more detailed health information about presidential candidates and especially about presidents,
Yes.
especially when they're facing some kind of challenge.
Absolutely. And that's why Joe Biden has been so incredibly transparent, and certainly by contrast, the president has not, both in terms of health records, but also let's look at taxes. We now know, because of great investigative journalism,
Get
that
'em.
Donald Trump paid $750
Hey, Jess, how you
in
doing?
taxes. When I first heard about it, I literally said, "You mean
$750,000? Right,
And it
me
was like,
too.
no, $750.
Right.
We now know Donald Trump owes and is in debt for $400 million. And just so everyone is clear, when we say in debt, it means you owe money to somebody.
Right.
And it'd be really good to know
Who
the
the somebody
President of the
is.
United States, the Commander-in-Chief,
Hello.
owes money to, because the
Hello.
American people have a right to know
We sure do.
what is influencing the
His
president's
decisions.
And
Right.
is he making those decisions on the best interest of the American people, of you,
Or in the best
or
interest of his
self-interest?
pocket.
So, Susan, I'm glad you asked about transparency, because it has to be across the board. Joe has been
Mike Pence looked like he gonna shit
transparent
himself.
over many, many years. The one thing we all know about Joe,
Dang.
he puts it all out there.
Gotta.
He is honest. He is forthright. But Donald Trump, on the other hand, has been about covering up everything.
Thank you, Senator Harris. I want to give you a chance to respond.
Well, look, I respect the fact that Joe Biden spent 47 years in public life. And I respect your public service as well. The American people have a president who's a businessman. It's the job creator. He's paid tens of millions.
What business?
of dollars
What
in
job?
payroll taxes,
Ooh,
property
I'm a
taxes.
closer.
He's created tens of thousands of American jobs.
Come on, Mike
The president
Pence.
said those
Stop
publicly.
lying. You don't even believe the shit you're
The president's
saying.
also released literally stacks of financial disclosures.
No, he did not. He had stacks sitting on a desk and kept saying he was under audit. We remember that. And the IRS official said that the Trump administration or the Trump organization is not under audit.
Thank you, Vice President.
Fighting for free and fair trade.
No, he's fighting for business men.
You know,
and
that's a
women.
good segue into our third topic, which is about the economy. This has been another aspect of life for Americans that's been so affected by this coronavirus. We have a jobs crisis brewing. On Friday, we learned
Brewing?
that the unemployment
More than
rate
brewing.
declined to 7.9% in September, but the job growth had stalled, and that was before the latest round of layoffs and furloughs in the airline industry at Disney and elsewhere. Hundreds of thousands of discouraged workers have stopped looking for work. Nearly
Of course,
11
they have no
million jobs
choice.
at the beginning of the year.
They don't understand exactly what's happening here.
Those hardest hit include Latinos, Blacks, and women. Senator Harris, the Biden-Harris campaign has proposed new programs to boost the economy, and you would pay for that new spending by raising.
Yeah, I agree,
$4 trillion
Rebel. She is toying with
taxes
him.
on wealthy individuals.
She
and
just need to, like,
corporations.
cut
Some
him off
economists
at
warn
the
that
neck.
could curb entrepreneurial ventures that fuel growth and create jobs. Would raising taxes put the recovery at risk? And you have 2 minutes to answer uninterrupted.
Thank you. On the issue of the economy, I think there couldn't be a more fundamental difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden.
Right.
Joe Biden believes you measure the health and the strength of America's economy based on the
The
health
people
and the strength
Of
of the American worker
people. Right.
and the American family. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who measures the strength of the economy based on how rich people are doing, which is why he passed a tax bill benefiting the top 1% and the biggest corporations of America.
Oh, no problem,
leading
Jess.
to
We got you.
a $2 trillion deficit that the American people are going to have to pay for. On day one, Joe Biden will repeal that tax bill. He'll get rid of it. And what he'll do
Please.
with the money is invest it in the American people. And through a plan that is about investing in infrastructure, something that Donald Trump said he would do. I remember hearing about some infrastructure week. I don't think it ever happened.
Right.
But Joe Biden will do that. He'll invest in infrastructure. It's about upgrading our roads and bridges, but also investing in clean energy.
Speaking about
renewable energy.
building, did he finish
Joe is
that
gonna
wall yet
invest
or that
money
fence?
in what we need to do around innovation. There was a time when our
And
country
what about that
believed in
money
science and
Homeboy
invested
stole?
in research and development so that we were an innovation leader on the globe. Joe Biden will use that money to invest in education. So, for example, For folks who want to go to a 2-year community college, it will be free. If you come from a family that makes less than $125,000, you'll go to a public university for free. And across the board, we'll make sure that if you have student loan debt, it's cut by $10,000. That's how Joe Biden thinks about the economy, which is it's about investing in the people of our country, as opposed to passing a tax bill, which had the benefit of letting American corporations go offshore.
Right.
To
And
do
hide their
business.
money.
Thank you,
You're
Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, your administration has been predicting a rapid and robust recovery, but the latest economic report suggests that's not happening. Should Americans be braced for an economic comeback that is going to take not months, but a year or more? You have 2 minutes to answer uninterrupted.
If he says
Trump
no,
took office,
he's lying.
America had gone through the slowest economic recovery since the Great Depression.
That's a lie.
Joe Biden was vice president. They tried to tax and spend and regulate and bail our way back to a growing economy.
Come on, man. That's a
President
lie.
Trump cut taxes.
You inherited a great economy on the
Despite what,
uptick.
Senator Harris says the average American family
Despite coronavirus.
$2,000 in savings and taxes. And with the rise in wages that occurred, most predominantly for blue-collar, hardworking Americans, the average household income for a family of 4 increased by $4,000.
Yes, for white
tax cuts.
households.
But America, you just heard Senator Harris tell you, on day one, Joe Biden's going to raise your taxes. It's really remarkable to think. I mean, right after
Yeah, what is he
time
hearing?
going through a pandemic that lost 22 million jobs at the height, we've already added back 11.6 million jobs because we had a president who cut taxes, rolled back regulation, unleashed American energy, fought for free and fair trade.
He just got
secured
rid of the
$4
payroll
trillion
tax.
from Congress of the United States
So
to give
people
direct payments
who
to families,
participate
save 50 million jobs.
gonna have to pay back more money come next
We've
year.
spared no expense to help the American people and the American worker through this. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris want to raise taxes. They want to bury our economy under a $2 trillion Green New Deal, which
Oh
you
my
were one of the original
gosh.
co-sponsors of in the United States Senate. They want to abolish fossil fuels and ban fracking, which would cost hundreds of thousands of American jobs all across the heartland. And Joe Biden wants to go back to the economic surrender to China, that when we took office, half of our international trade deficit was with China alone. And Joe Biden wants to repeal all of the tariffs that President Trump put into effect to fight for American jobs and American workers. Joe Biden says democracy's on the ballot. Make sure the American economy, the American comeback is on the ballot with 4 more years of growth.
Thank you.
and opportunity,
Thank you,
4 more years of
There
President
you
Donald
go.
Trump. 2021
Thank
is
you,
going
Vice
to be the
President.
biggest economic year of the history of this country.
Y'all always talking about the biggest.
Senator Harris.
You have
Well,
4
that
years
was
to
not
do
enough
so.
in last week's debate, but I think this is supposed to be a debate based on fact and truth. And the
Right.
truth and the fact is, Joe Biden has been very clear. He will not raise taxes on anybody who makes less than
He said
$400,000
he's
a
going to
year.
repeal the Trump tax cuts.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Who?
I'm speaking.
It'd be important if you said the truth.
The truth.
Joe Biden said twice in the debate last week that he's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. That was tax cuts that gave the average working family
No, it was not.
$2,000 in a tax break every single year.
That is-
Senator,
That is
That's-
absolutely not true. That
is he,
not
tax
true.
bill,
is he only going to repeal part of the Trump tax cuts?
if you don't mind letting me finish, we can then have a conversation, okay?
Please.
Okay. Joe Biden will not raise taxes on anyone who makes less than $400,000 a year. He has been very clear about that. Joe Biden will not end fracking. He has been very clear about that. Joe Biden is the one who, during the Great Recession, was responsible for the Recovery Act that brought America back. And now the
You
Trump
sure as hell
Pence
was.
administration wants to take credit
Right.
when they rode the coattails of Joe Biden's success for
They
the
sure
economy
did.
that they had at the beginning of their term. Of course, now the economy is a complete disaster.
Right.
But Joe Biden, on the one hand, did that. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who has reigned over a recession that is being compared to the Great Depression. On the one hand, you have Joe
Right.
Biden,
I'm honest. I mean,
who was responsible with President Barack
I
Obama
know.
for the Affordable Care Act, which brought health care to over 20 million Americans and protected
These
people with
moderators are
pre-existing
not doing
conditions.
such a
And what
great
it
job.
also did is it saved those families who otherwise were going bankrupt because of hospital bills they could not afford. On the other hand, You have Donald Trump, who's in court right now, trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act.
He sure
which means
is
that you
right
will lose
now.
protections if you have pre-existing conditions. And
Yep.
this is very important, Susan.
Yes,
It
and
is.
we need to get Vice President.
I just like, he interrupted.
Well, he interrupted
I'd like to
her.
just-
Exactly.
If
Don't
you
do
have a
it.
pre-existing
Don't do
condition,
it.
Heart disease, diabetes, breast cancer, they're coming.
COVID.
If you love someone who has a pre-existing
Thank
condition,
you. Thank
they're
you, Senator
coming
Harris.
for you. If you are under the age of 26 on your parents' coverage,
They're coming for you too. Yep.
Senator Harris, thank you. Let me give you a chance to respond.
Well, I hope we have a chance to talk about healthcare because Obamacare was a disaster.
That's what you keep saying. But how and where?
President Trump and I have a plan to improve healthcare. And
Well, if you had a plan, you have 4 years to implement that plan, which you have not. So then what's your plan?
Senator Harris, you're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. You yourself said on multiple occasions when you were running for president that you would ban fracking. Joe Biden looked at a supporter in the eye and pointed and said, I guarantee
Sorry to hear that,
we
Nikki
will
D.
abolish fossil fuels. They have a $2 trillion version of the Green New Deal, Susan, that your newspaper, USA Today, said really wasn't that very different from the original Green New Deal. More taxes, more regulation, banning fracking, abolishing fossil fuel, crushing American energy.
Well, I mean, the reality is we do need to find other sources of energy than to ruin the environment. Because we still need to live here.
The V-shaped recovery that's underway right now will continue with 4 more years of President Donald Trump.
Thank you very, very much, Vice President Pence. Once again, you've provided the perfect segue to a new topic, which is climate change. And Vice President Pence, I'd like to pose the first question to you. This year, we've seen record-setting hurricanes in the South. Another one, Hurricane Delta, is now threatening the Gulf. And we have seen record-setting wildfires in the West. Do you believe, as the scientific community has concluded, that man-made climate change has made wildfires bigger, hotter, and more deadly, and have made hurricanes wetter, slower, and more damaging? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Thank you, Susan. First, I'm very proud of our record on the environment and on conservation.
What?
According to all of the best estimates,
What
our air and
estimates?
land are cleaner than any time ever recorded. Our water is among the cleanest in the world.
That's why he's rolled
And just a
back
few months ago, the
environmental
president signed the
regulations
largest investment
to
in
allow
public
companies
lands.
to continue to pour their substances into our rivers, lakes, and
President Trump has
streams,
made a
right?
commitment
Yeah.
to conservation.
Sure.
Now, with regard to climate change,
Come on, Pence.
the climate is changing. The issue is, what's the cause and what do we do about it? President Trump has made it clear that we're going to continue to listen to the science. Now, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would put us back in.
He just said the scientists don't know
Impose
as much
that
as he
Green
does.
New
What do
Deal,
you,
which would
I
crush
can't.
American energy,
Come on,
increase
Pence.
the energy costs of
Please.
American families in their homes, and literally would crush American jobs. President Trump and I believe that the progress that we have
Wow,
made
Nikki D.
in a cleaner
Look at that.
environment has been happening precisely because we have a strong free market economy. You know, what's remarkable is the United States has reduced CO2 more than the countries that are still in the Paris Climate Accord, but we've done it through innovation. And we've done it through natural gas and fracking, which, Senator, the American people can go look at the record. I know Joe Biden says otherwise now, as you do, but the both of you repeatedly committed to abolishing fossil fuel and banning fracking. And so by creating
Hey, Linty, how are you?
innovation, we're actually steering toward a stronger and better environment. With regard to wildfires, President Trump and I believe that forest management has to be front and center. And even Governor Gavin Newsom from your state has agreed we've got to work on forest management. And with regard to hurricanes, the National Oceanic Administration tells us that actually as difficult as they are,
Thank you, Vice President.
there are no more hurricanes today than
Thank
there
you.
were 100 years ago.
Thank you.
But many of the climate alarms
President Pence, I'm
use
sorry, your time
hurricanes
is up.
and wildfires to try and
Thank
sell
you,
their
Vice
bill of
President
goods of
Pence.
a Green New Deal. And President Trump and I are going to always put
Thank you.
American jobs and American workers first.
Senator Harris, as the Vice President mentioned, you co-sponsored the Green New Deal in
I'm not
Congress.
buying it.
But Vice President Biden said in last week's debate that he does not support the Green New Deal.
He has his
But if you
own
look
Green
at the
New Deal, is what he
Biden-Harris
said.
campaign website, it describes the Green New Deal as a crucial framework. What exactly would be the stance of a Biden-Harris administration toward the Green New Deal? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Sure. So first of all, I will repeat, and the American people know, that Joe Biden will not ban fracking. That is a fact. That is a fact. I will repeat that Joe Biden has been very clear that he thinks about growing jobs, which is why he will not increase taxes for anyone who makes less than $400,000 a year.
Right.
Joe
So
Biden's
Trump
economic
supporters should be
plan,
happy.
Moody's, which
Most
is
of
a
them are
reputable
really
Wall Street
poor.
firm, has said will create 7 million more jobs than Donald Trump's. And part of those jobs that will be created by Joe Biden are going to be about clean energy and renewable energy. Because you see, Joe understands that the west coast of our country is burning, including my
Right.
home state of California. Joe sees
Right.
what is happening on the Gulf states, which are being battered by storms.
Mhm.
Joe has seen and talked with the farmers in Iowa, whose entire crops have been destroyed because of floods.
Right.
And so Joe believes, again, in science. I'll tell you something, Susan. I served, when I first got to the Senate, on the committee that's responsible for the environment. Do you know this administration took the word science off the website
They did.
and then took the phrase climate change off the website? We have seen a pattern with this administration, which is they don't believe in science.
Right.
And Joe's plan is about saying we're going to deal with it, but we're also going to create jobs. Donald Trump, when asked about the wildfires in California, and the question was, the science is telling us this, you know what Donald Trump said? Science doesn't know. So let's
Right.
talk about who is prepared to lead our country over the course of the next 4 years on what is an existential threat to us as human beings. Joe is about saying we're going to invest that in renewable energy. It's going to be about the creation of millions of jobs. We will achieve net zero emissions by 2050, carbon neutral by 2035. Joe has a plan. This has been a lot of talk from the Trump administration, and really it has been to go backward instead of forward. We will
Right.
also re-enter the climate agreement with pride.
Senator Harris just said that climate change is an existential threat. Vice President Pence, do you believe that climate change poses an existential threat?
As I said, Susan, the climate is changing. We'll follow the science. But once again, Senator Harris is denying the fact that they're going to raise taxes.
Oh, what does that got to do with the environment?
And on day one, he was going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. Those tax cuts delivered $2,000.
Okay, but the tax cuts really benefited rich people. They don't benefit the average day living American.
You yourself said repeatedly that you would ban fracking.
Listen, come on.
Senate
What are we talking about here?
Deal. And while Joe Biden denied the Green New Deal, Susan, thank you for pointing out the Green New Deal is on their campaign website. And as USA Today said, it's essentially the same plan as you co-sponsored with AOC when she submitted it in the Senate. And you just heard the senator say that she's going to resubmit America to the Paris Climate Accord. Look,
Yeah.
the American people have always cherished our environment. We'll continue to cherish it. We've made great progress reducing CO2 emissions through American innovation and the development of natural gas through fracking. We don't need a massive $2 trillion Green New Deal that would impose all new mandates on American businesses and American families.
Thank you.
Joe Biden wants us
Thank
to
you, Vice
retrofit
President.
4 million
Thank you, Vice
American
President.
business buildings. It makes no sense. It will cost jobs.
Shut the fuck
Thank you,
He's going to
Vice
put
President.
America first. He's going to put jobs first. And we're going to take care of our environment and follow the science.
Thank
But
you, Vice
on the
President.
issue of jobs,
Senator Harris.
let's talk about that. The vice president earlier
Please.
referred to, as part of what he thinks is an accomplishment,
Right.
the president's trade war with China. You lost that trade war.
You sure
lost it.
did. You lost it big
What ended
time.
up happening is because of a so-called trade war with China, America lost 300,000 manufacturing jobs.
Yep.
Farmers
You
have
lost their
experienced
crops.
bankruptcy because of it. We are
Sure
in a
did.
manufacturing recession because of it. And when we look at where this administration has been There are estimates that by the end of the term of this administration, they will have lost more jobs than almost any other presidential administration. And the American people know what I'm talking about. You know, I think about 20-year-olds. You know, we have a 20-year-old, a 20-something-year-old who are coming out of high school and college right now, and you're wondering, is there going to be a job there for them?
Hey, Smart Show, how you doing?
We're looking at people who are trying to figure out how they're going to pay rent by the end of the month. Almost half of American renters are worried
Facing
about whether
eviction.
they're going to be able to pay rent by the end of the month. This is where the economy is in America right now, and it is because of the catastrophe and the failure of leadership of this administration.
Thank you, Senator
And
Harris.
that's a fact.
Vice President Pence, let me give you just 15 seconds to respond because then I want to move on.
Well, I'd love to respond. Look, lost the trade war with China. Joe Biden never fought. And again, Senator Harris, you're entitled to your opinion. You're not entitled to your own facts. When Joe Biden was vice president, we lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs. And President Obama said they were never coming back. He said we needed a magic wand to bring them back. In our first 3 years after we cut taxes, rolled back regulations.
Yeah, because you cut regulations and roll back taxes.
Thank you, Vice President.
So that's what made the businesses come back. Of course, because you allowed them not to be able to pay their fair share. And what they were paying in the beginning. Does that make any sense?
Kill jobs this time, just like it killed jobs.
I'd like to-
I just need to respond very quickly.
15 seconds. and-
Thank you. Thank you. Joe Biden is responsible for saving
The
America's
economy.
auto industry.
Right.
And you voted against it. So let's set the record straight.
Right.
Thank you.
I'd like to talk about China.
You sure
We
did.
have as our next topic. We have no more complicated or consequential foreign relationship than the one with China. It is a huge market for American agricultural goods. It's a potential partner in dealing with climate change in North Korea. And in a video tonight, President Trump again blamed it for the coronavirus, saying China will pay.
But after he was able to get
How would you
his
describe
daughter
our-
and
our
himself
fundamental relationship with China? Competitors, adversaries,
trade market
enemies?
deals,
You have two
now all of a
minutes.
sudden they're their enemy. You're so full of shit.
Before I leave that, let me speak to voting records if I can. You know, everybody knows that NAFTA cost literally thousands of American factories to close. We saw automotive jobs go south of the border. President Trump fought to renegotiate NAFTA. And the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement is now the law of the land. American people deserve to know. Senator Kamala Harris was one of only 10 members of the Senate to vote against the USMCA. It was a huge win for American auto workers. It was a huge win.
Well, if
for
it was
American
such a huge
farmers,
win
especially
for American
dairy
auto
in the
workers,
Midwest. But Senator, you
why
did
did
something
Ford
before
wind up
climate change
leaving Detroit
that you
yet
put
again?
Your radical
General
environmental
Motors
agenda
leaving Detroit
ahead of
yet
American
again.
auto workers and ahead of American
So
jobs.
he's
And,
explaining it.
People deserve to know that. It's probably why Newsweek magazine said that Kamala Harris was the most liberal member of the United States Senate in 2019. More liberal than Bernie Sanders, more liberal than any of the others.
Are we trying to tie everybody to
With
everybody?
China. Look, Susan, first
Great.
and foremost, China is to blame for the coronavirus. And President Trump is not happy about it. He's made that very clear, made it clear again today.
Yeah, okay.
China and the World Health Organization did not play straight with the American people. They did not let our personnel into China to get information on the coronavirus until the middle of February.
Oh,
Fortunately, President Trump, in dealing with China from the outset of this administration, standing up to China that had been taking advantage of America for decades in the wake of Joe Biden's cheerleading for China, President Trump made that decision before the end of January to suspend all travel from China. And again, the American people deserve to know Joe Biden opposed President Trump's decision to suspend all travel from China. He said it was hysterical. He said it was
Thank you, Vice President
xenophobic.
Pence.
But President Trump
Vice
has stood
President Pence,
up
your
to
time is
China.
up.
We're going to continue to stand strong.
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
We want to improve the relationship, but we're going to level the playing field.
Shut
We're gonna hold
up.
China accountable for what they did to America with the coronavirus.
Thank you. Senator Harris, let me ask you the same question that I asked the Vice President. How would you describe our fundamental relationship with China? Are we competitors, adversaries, enemies. You'll have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Susan, the Trump administration's perspective and approach to China has resulted in the loss of American lives, American
Fact.
jobs,
Facts.
and America's standing.
Facts.
There's a weird obsession that President Trump has had with getting rid of whatever accomplishment was achieved by President Obama and Vice President Mike Pence.
You better tell
For
it.
example, they created within the White House an office that basically was responsible for monitoring pandemics. They got rid of it. There was a team of disease experts
Sure
that
was.
President Obama and Vice President
Sure
Biden
was.
dispatched to China to monitor what is now predictable and what might happen. They pulled them out.
Sure
We
did.
now are looking at 210,000 Americans who have lost their lives.
That's how that biochemist from Harvard was
Let's look at
able
the
to
job situation.
work with
We
the
mentioned
Chinese
the
military.
trade deal, the trade war, they wanted to call it, with China. It resulted in the loss of over 300 manufacturing jobs and a manufacturing recession. And the American consumer paying thousands of dollars more for goods because of that failed
Sure did.
war, as they called it. And let's talk about standing. Pew, a reputable research firm, has done an analysis that shows that leaders of all of our formerly allied countries have now decided that
To
they
handle
hold in
their own
greater
business.
esteem and respect Xi Jinping, the head of the Chinese Communist Party, than they do Donald Trump, the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief of the United States.
Right.
This is where we are today because of a failure of leadership by this administration.
Senator Harris, we've seen changes in the role of the United States in terms of global leadership over the past 4 years. And of course, times do change. What's your definition? We've seen strains with China, of course, as the Vice President mentioned. We've seen strains with our traditional allies in NATO and elsewhere. What is your definition of the role of American leadership in 2020?
So, Joe is, I love talking with Joe about a lot of these issues. And, Joe, I think he said it quite well. He says, foreign policy, it might sound complicated, but really it's relationships. Just think about it as relationships. And so we know this in our personal and professional relationships. You got to keep your word to your friends. You got to be loyal to your friends. People who've stood with you, you got to stand with them.
Right.
You got to know who your adversaries are and keep them in check. But what we have seen with Donald Trump
He
is
cozies
that
up.
he has betrayed our friends
Yep.
and embraced dictators around the world. Let's take, for example, Russia. So, Russia, I serve on the Intelligence Committee of the United States Senate.
Facts.
America's intelligence community told us Russia interfered in the election of the President of the United States in 2016 and is playing in 2020. Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, said the same.
Facts on
But
facts.
Donald Trump, the Commander-in-Chief of the United
He
States
just said
of
it
America,
again 2 weeks ago.
prefers to take the word of Vladimir Putin over the word of the American intelligence community. You look at our friends at NATO. He's walked away from agreements. You can look at the Iran nuclear deal, which now has put us in a position where we are less safe because they are building up what might end up being a significant nuclear arsenal. We were in that deal, guys. We were in the Iran nuclear deal with friends, with allies around the country. And because of Donald Trump's unilateral approach to foreign policy, coupled with his isolationism, he pulled us out and has made America less safe. So, Susan, it's about relationships. And the thing that has always been part of the strength of our nation, in addition to our great military, has been that we keep our word. But Donald Trump doesn't understand that because he doesn't understand
He sure
what it
does.
means to be honest.
Nah, he sure does,
Thank you,
brother.
thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President, somebody give you a chance to respond.
Well,
And
thank
they
you.
like it. That's the
President
sad
Trump
part.
kept his word when we moved the American embassy to Jerusalem.
They both
capital of the
like
state
it.
of Israel. When Joe Biden was vice president, they promised to do that, and they never did. We stood strong with our allies, but we've been demanding. NATO is now contributing more to our common defense than ever before, thanks to President Trump's leadership. We've strengthened our alliances across the Asia Pacific, and we've stood strong
With who?
against those who would do us harm. You know, when President Trump came into office, ISIS had captured an area of the Middle East the size of Pennsylvania. But President Trump unleashed the American military, and our armed forces destroyed the ISIS caliphate and took down their leader, al-Baghdadi, without one American casualty. Al-Baghdadi
That we
was
know of.
responsible for the death of thousands. But notably, America's hearts today are with the family of Kayla Mueller, the parents of which are here with us tonight in Salt Lake City. Today, 2 of the ISIS killers responsible for Kayla Mueller's murder were brought to justice in the United States.
Yeah, but what
John
about
was killed on the battlefield.
what about Khashoggi? What about the journalists
The reality is
that you allowed
when Joe Biden
the
was
Saudi
president,
prince to
he
come in
helped
and kill?
save Kayla Mueller. Breaks my heart to reflect on it, but the military came into the Oval Office, presented a plan. They said they knew where Kayla was. Baghdadi had held her for 18 months, abused her mercilessly before they killed her. But when Joe Biden was
Okay, are we
president,
talking about the American soldiers that have tortured
when armed forces
others
finally went in,
overseas
his
as
leadership
well?
had moved 2 days earlier. And her family says with a heart that broke the heart of every American that if President Donald Trump had been president, they believe Kayla would be alive today.
Thank you, Vice
Oh,
So we
President.
destroyed
come
the
on, cut
ISIS
the shit.
caliphate. And you talk about re-entering the Iran
Cut the
nuclear
shit.
deal. I mean, the last administration transferred $1.8 billion to the leading state sponsor
Thank you, Vice
of
President.
terrorism. President Donald Trump got us out of the
Thank you,
deal.
Vice President.
And when Qasem Soleimani was traveling to Baghdad
Thank you,
to do
Vice
harm
President.
to Americans, President Donald Trump took
Thank you,
him
Vice
out.
President.
America is
Trust and
safer.
believe Donald Trump has done more harm to Americans
President
than
Donald Trump
coming close to
Thank you,
any
Vice President.
take
uh,
action.
I would like to
foreign
give Senator Harris a
adversary.
chance to respond, but not at such great length because, of course, there are other topics we want to talk
But
about.
I would like equal time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
First of all, to the Mueller family, I know about your daughter's case, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. What happened to her is awful, and it should have never happened. And I know Joe feels the same way, and I know that President Obama feels the same way. But you mentioned Soleimani. Let's start there. So after the strike on Soleimani, there was a counter strike on our troops in Iraq. And
Yeah, I feel you, just. I agree.
they suffered serious brain injuries.
He knows
And
it.
do you know what Donald Trump dismissed them as? Headaches. And this is about a pattern of Donald Trump's, where he has referred to our men who are serving in our military as suckers and
And
losers.
losers. Yep.
Donald Trump, who went to Arlington Cemetery and stood above the graves of our fallen heroes
He sure
and
did.
said, what's in it for them? Because, of course, he only thinks about what's in it
For him.
Let's take what he said about John McCain, a great American hero.
He sure did.
And Donald Trump says he doesn't deserve to be called a hero because he was a prisoner
Of war.
of war.
And he got
And
captured.
this is very important when you want to talk about
Give it
who is the
to him.
current commander in chief and what
Get
they
him,
care about and what
Kamala.
they don't care about. Public reporting that Russia had bounties on the heads of American soldiers. And you know what a bounty is? It's somebody puts a price on your head and they will pay it if you are killed. And Donald Trump had talked at least 6 times to Vladimir Putin and never brought up the subject. Joe Biden would never do that. Joe Biden would hold Russia to account for
He sure
any
would.
threat to our nation's security or to our troops who are sacrificing their lives.
She is
for the sake of
murdering
our
him right
democracy and our
now.
safety.
Thank you, Senator Harris. This is such an important issue, but we have other important issues as well. And I want to make sure we have a chance
I really
to
have to
talk about.
respond to that.
I'm
Look, she has
15 seconds because
Well, I gotta
we're
have
trying
to
to.
listen to that. Look,
Well,
Nope,
I'm sorry,
you can't.
Vice President, but
Look,
you've
I-
had more time than she's had So
The
far,
slanders against President Donald Trump regarding men and women of our armed forces are absurd.
I'm sorry,
My
Vice
son
President
is a
Pence.
captain in the United
Yes.
States Marine Corps.
Cut the
My son-in-law
mic.
is employed in the United States Navy. I can assure all of you, with sons and daughters serving in our military,
Cut the mic.
President Donald Trump not only respects but reveres all of those who serve.
Well, if he reveres it, then he shouldn't have said it. He shouldn't have said it. If he revered it, he
Thank you,
shouldn't have
Vice
said it.
President Pence. Vice
No,
President Pence.
there's nothing.
Vice President
Girl,
Pence,
please, please
Vice
stop.
President Pence, I did not, excuse me,
Susan,
I did not create the
no.
rules for tonight.
Joe Biden.
Your campaigns agreed to the rules for tonight's
Right,
debate. The
period.
Commission on Presidential Debates. I'm here to enforce them, which involves moving from one topic to another, giving roughly equal time.
Just
to
mute
both of
the
you,
f-
which is
mic.
what I'm trying very hard to do.
Go right ahead.
So I want to go ahead and move to the next topic, which is an important one, as the last topic was, and that is the Supreme Court. On Monday, the Senate Judiciary Committee is scheduled to open hearings on Amy Coney Barrett's nomination to the Supreme Court. Senator Harris, you'll be there as a member of the committee. Her confirmation would cement the court's conservative majority and make it likely open to more abortion restrictions,
Yep.
even to overturning the landmark Roe v. Wade ruling.
Along
Access
with
to
Voting
abortion
Rights
would
Act
then
and
be up to
everything
the
else.
states.
We keep talking
Vice
about
President
abortion
Pence, you're the
and
former
same
governor of
sex.
Indiana.
Like,
If
that's
Roe
the
v.
only
Wade
things
is
that they have
overturned,
on the agenda.
what would you want Indiana
It's not.
to do? Would you want your home state to ban all abortions? You have 2 minutes, uninterrupted.
Yep.
Thank you for the question, but I'll use a little bit of my time to respond to that very important issue.
Oh my God.
The American people deserve to know. Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian general, was responsible for the death of hundreds of American service members. When the opportunity came, we saw him headed to Baghdad to kill more Americans. President Trump didn't hesitate. And Qasem Soleimani is gone. But you deserve to know that Joe Biden.
No, he
and
did that
Kamala Harris
because he
actually
didn't bother to do
criticized the
anything
decision to take out
behind the crown prince
Qasem
who went in and killed that
It's really
journalist
inexplicable, but
who was living in
with
America.
Joe Biden, it's
That's why he
explainable.
had to go do
Because
something
history
else.
records that Joe Biden actually opposed the raid against Osama bin Laden. It's absolutely essential that we have a commander-in-chief who will not hesitate to act to protect American lives and to protect American service members, and that's what you have in President Donald Trump. Now, with regard to the Supreme Court of the United States, let me say President Trump and I could not be more enthusiastic about the opportunity to see Judge Amy Coney Barrett become Justice Amy Coney Barrett. She's a brilliant woman, and she will bring a lifetime of experience and a sizable American family to the Supreme Court of the United States. And our hope is, in the hearing next week, unlike Justice Kavanaugh received with treatment from you and others, we hope she gets a fair hearing. And we particularly hope that we don't see the kind of attacks on her Christian faith that we saw before. And the Democrat chairman of the Judiciary Committee before, when Judge Barrett was being confirmed for the Court of Appeals, expressed concern that the dogma of her faith lived loudly in her. Dick Durbin
Well,
of Illinois said that it was a concern.
We
Senator,
weren't
I
built
know
on
of our
being a
judicial
Christian
nominees,
nation,
you
but now all of a
actually
sudden we're so
attacked because they were
gun-ho
Catholic
on
Knights of Columbus.
the Christian
It's because
doctrine,
the
but
Knights
we
of
were not
Columbus holds pro-life
framed.
Thank you, Vice
For
President.
that.
So
Pence. Your
my
time
hope
is
is
up.
that when the hearing takes place, that
Thank you, Vice President.
Oh my
that
God.
Judge Amy Coney Barrett
Lady,
will be
please.
Thank you, Vice President
respectfully
Pence.
voted and confirmed
Thank
by the
you.
Supreme Court of the United States.
Senator Harris, you're the senator from and former Attorney General of California. So let me ask you a parallel question to the one I posed to the Vice President. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, what would you want California to do? Would you want your home state to enact no restrictions on access to abortion? And you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Thank you, Susan. First of all, Joe Biden and I are both people of faith, and it's insulting to suggest that we would knock anyone for their faith. And in fact, Joe, if elected, will be only the second
Catholic
practicing
priest.
Catholic
Right. So I
as
would be president of the United States. Duh.
On the issue of this,
What faith is Donald Trump? Come on, get the
Joe
hell
and I
out
are
of
very
here.
clear, as are the majority of the American people.
He
We
ain't
are
been in a
27
church.
days before the decision about who will be the next president of the United States. And, you know, before, when this conversation has come up, you know, it's been about election year or election time. We're literally in an election.
Right.
Over 4 million people have voted
Already.
People are in the process of voting
Right now.
And
Sure.
so Joe has been very clear, as the American people are. Let the American people fill that seat in the White House, and then we'll fill that seat on the United States Supreme Court. And to your point, Susan, the issues before us couldn't be more serious. There's the issue of choice, and I will always fight for a woman's right to make a decision about her own body. It should be her decision and not that of Donald Trump and the Vice President, Michael Pence. But let's also look at what else is before the court. It's the Affordable Care Act.
Right.
Literally in the midst of a public
voting
health
rights.
pandemic.
Everything.
When over 210,000
Everything is on the
people
line
have
with this
died,
Supreme
and
Court
7 million
justice pick.
people
Everything.
probably have what will be in the future considered a pre-existing condition because you contracted the virus. Donald Trump is in court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. And I said it before, and it bears repeating. This means that there will be no more protections if they win for people with pre-existing conditions.
That's it.
This means that over 20 million people will lose your coverage.
Tell the facts.
It means that if you're under the age of 26, you can't stay on your parents' coverage anymore. And here's the thing. The contrast couldn't be more clear. They're trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. Joe Biden is saying, let's expand coverage. Let's give you a choice of a public option or private coverage. Let's bring down premiums. Let's lower Medicare eligibility.
Very true.
Thank you, Senator.
That's true leadership.
You know, you mentioned earlier, Vice President Pence, that the president was committed to maintaining protections for people with pre-existing conditions. But you do have this court case that you are supporting, your administration is supporting, that
to
would
get rid
strike
of it.
down the Affordable Care Act. The president says, President Trump says that he's going to protect people with pre-existing conditions, but he has not explained
how he'll do it.
Would do that. And that was one of the toughest nuts.
He never does, because he doesn't know. They don't have a plan.
How would your administration?
Their plan is to just dismantle it. That's their only plan. Get rid of it.
If the Affordable
They don't have another plan.
Well, thank you, Susan. But let me just say, addressing your very first question, I couldn't be more proud to serve as Vice President.
Oh, shit.
Without apology for the sanctity of human life.
What sanctity? He's had like 3 marriages. You know how many abortions?
This is another one of those cases where there's such a dramatic
Let me shut up.
contrast. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris support.
I'm sure the women had plenty of abortions before they decided to have his gremlin babies. Please.
Increase funding to Planned Parenthood of America. Now, for our part, I would never presume how Judge Amy Coney Barrett would rule.
I'm trying to figure out, how'd you have 4 years to create all these plans, and in 4 years you haven't created a plan? So then you want another 4 years to come up with a plan? Come on, y'all. Like, we can't be serious talking about this like they're just running for office now. They've been in office already. Get the hell out of here.
Presidents have nominated in all 29 cases, but your party is actually openly advocating adding seats to the Supreme Court, which has had 9 seats for 150 years. If you don't get your
let's be very clear. The Supreme Court has had 12 seats. The Supreme Court has had as much as 14 seats. They just stuck with 9 for a while, but they've always had more.
If somehow you win this election, going to pack the Supreme Court to get your way.
You've packed it to get your way.
A little history lesson. Let's do that.
Let's do it again, please.
In 1864.
All right.
Yes, Vice President, I'm speaking.
Right. Get it. Let's go.
In 1864.
That year.
One of the, I think, political heroes, certainly the president, I assume if you also, Mr. Vice President, is Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, yeah. That guy.
Abraham Lincoln was up for re-election.
I'll wait.
And it was 27 days before the election.
And he said,
a seat became open on the United States Supreme Court. Abraham Lincoln's party was in charge not only of the White House, but the Senate. But Honest Abe said it's not the right thing to do. The American people deserve to make the decision about who will be the next president of the United States. And then that person can select who will serve for a lifetime on the highest court of our land.
Yep.
And so Joe and I are very clear. The American people are voting.
And didn't turkey neck Mitch McConnell say the same thing? He said it
about
when Obama was president,
serve on this
and there was
most
plenty of
important
time
body
before the
for a
election.
lifetime.
Thank you.
And you know,
Senator Harris.
People, Susan, are voting
So, I
right now.
understand.
They'd like to know if you and Joe Biden are going to pack the Supreme Court if you don't get your way in this nomination.
you're trying to pack the Supreme Court right now.
Non-answer, Joe
You're
Biden.
packing the federal courts right now.
People deserve a straight answer.
Come on.
If you haven't figured
Mitch
it out,
McConnell is
straight
packing
answer is
the
they
federal
are
courts right now
packing
with
the Supreme
conservative
Court
judges.
if they somehow win
So
this election.
him talking about packing the courts,
I can
bullshit.
tell people across this country, if you cherish our Supreme Court, if you cherish the separation of powers, you need to reject the Biden-Harris ticket.
Let's ask about these federal
Re-elect
courts.
President Donald Trump.
Please,
Stand by
Kamala,
the
get him on these
separation
federal
powers
courts
seat.
that Mitch
Yeah,
McConnell
let's
is
talk
for.
about packing the court.
Yeah, let's talk about
Let's
it.
talk about
Please.
that.
Let's get
Yeah,
it.
I'm about to.
Yeah, let's get it. Let's go.
So the Trump-Pence administration
Hmm.
has been, because I sit on the Senate Judiciary Committee, as you mentioned.
She
I
does.
noticed the appointments for lifetime appointments to the federal courts, district courts.
Yes, yes, yes.
People who are purely ideological, people who have been reviewed by legal professional organizations and found to have been not competent, are substandard. And do you know that of the 50 people who President Trump appointed to the Court of Appeals for lifetime appointments, not one is black?
Nope, not
This
one.
is what they've been doing. You want to talk about packing a court? Let's have that.
They've all been white.
All right, thank you.
All been
Thank you,
white
Senator.
men.
Let's go on and talk about the issue
Of course.
racial
Not even the
justice.
moderator wants to touch that
She
one.
never answered the question.
The moderator don't even want to touch that one. They don't like to touch
Joe
it.
Biden will answer the question, but I think the American people.
Thank you, Vice President. In March, Breonna Taylor, a 26-year-old emergency room technician,
Oh,
was shot and
I
killed
need more
after
drink.
police officers executing a search warrant in a narcotics investigation broke into her.
'Cause I already know where this is gonna
The
go,
police said
and I'm
they
about to
identified
just be
themselves.
upset.
Taylor's boyfriend said he didn't hear them do that. He used a gun registered to him. To
He
fire a
didn't hear
shot
it, and nor
which
did the
wounded
11 other
officer.
people
The
who
officers then fired more
witnessed
than
the whole
20
thing
rounds into
heard the
her.
police
They say
officers
they
say
were acting
anything
in
because they didn't.
self-defense. None of them have been indicted in connection with her death.
Trust and believe. They thought that man
Senator
had drugs
Harris,
and
in the
money in that
case of
apartment,
Breonna
and that's what they was going to go
Was
steal.
justice done?
They didn't give a goddamn about who was in the apartment because they were planning to kill her anyway.
Breonna's mother, Tamika Palmer, and her family. And her family deserves justice. She was a beautiful young woman. She had as her life goal to become a nurse, and she wanted to become an EMT to first learn what's going on out on the street so she could then become a nurse and save lives. And her life was taken unjustifiably and tragically
She was
and violently.
murdered.
And it brings me to, the 8 minutes and 46 seconds that America witnessed, during which an American man was tortured and killed under the knee of an armed, uniformed police officer. And people around our country of every race, of every age, of every gender, perfect strangers to each other, marched shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm, fighting for us to finally achieve that ideal of equal justice under law. And I was a part of those peaceful protests. And I believe strongly that, first of all, we are never going to condone violence, but we always must fight for the values that we hold dear, including the fight to achieve our ideals. And that's why Joe Biden and I have said on this subject, look, and I'm a former career prosecutor. I know what I'm talking about. Bad cops are bad for good cops. We need reform of our policing in America and our criminal justice system, which is why Joe and I will immediately ban chokeholds and carotid holds. George Floyd would be alive today if we did that. We will require a national registry for police officers who break the law. We will, on the issue of criminal justice reform.
Well, you make sure you go after the police stations that hire the mofos too.
And cash bail. And we will decriminalize marijuana. And we will expunge the records of those who have been convicted of marijuana. This is a time for leadership on a tragic issue of unarmed Black people in America.
Oh, you ain't tell Pence that. You just,
Vice
Mr.
President,
President,
let me
Vice
pose the same
President.
question to you. In the case of Breonna Taylor, was justice done? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Child, here we go with the bullshit.
Well, our heart breaks for the loss of any innocent American life. And the family of Breonna Taylor has our sympathies.
But
I trust our justice system. Really refuse it. And it really is remarkable.
that's not true. They weren't told about the other two
You would assume
officers.
that in a panel,
You know
jury
that.
looking at all the evidence, got it wrong.
They didn't look at all the evidence.
Entitled to your
They were not given all the evidence. We just learned that
With
What,
regard
last
to
week?
George Floyd, there's no excuse for what happened to George Floyd. Justice will be served. But there's also
how?
no excuse for
How?
what
He
happened.
just got $1 million raised. He's
Fine.
out right now.
I mean,
What are
it
what are
really
we
is
talking about?
astonishing. Flora Westbrook is with us here tonight in Salt Lake City. Just a few weeks ago,
I
I stood at
can't.
what used to be her salon. Was
Okay.
burned to the ground
Yeah,
by
by
rioters and looters.
undercover police
And Flora is
officers
still trying
to
prove her life.
continue on this whole
And I
thing
must
of
tell you, this-
it being
this-
violence
this
and
presumption
looters.
that you hear consistently
And let's not be
from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
fooled. Excuse me. There's a lot of white
America is systemically
looters as
racist.
well.
That, as Joe Biden said, that he believes that
It
law
is.
enforcement has an implicit
Biases.
against
They do.
minorities.
They do. What more
This
evidence
is a
do you
great
need?
insult to the men and women who serve in law enforcement. I want
Oh,
everyone
get the
who
fuck
puts
out of
on
here.
uniform
That's
law enforcement
bullshit.
every day. President Trump and I stand with
That's
you.
bullshit.
And it's remarkable that
From the
that when
Trayvon
Senator
Martin
Tim
to
Scott
the
tried to pass the
Sandra
police reform
Bland's,
bill,
we clearly
brought
know
together a group of
that
Republicans and Democrats,
there is a
Senator Harris,
bias.
you got up and walked out of the room. And then you filibustered Senator Tim Scott's bill on the
I
Senate
can't.
floor that would have provided new accountability, new resources. But we don't have to choose between supporting law enforcement, improving public safety, and supporting our African American.
You do.
All of
You
our
do.
glories
You do.
under
When you
President Trump's
when we have
leadership,
more
we've always
military
had law
police
enforcement
officers in our
do
neighborhoods
what we
than
And
your
thank
lily
you,
white
Mr.
neighborhoods,
lives
we
of
do.
African Americans,
Thank you, Vice
record
President.
unemployment.
Oh, here we go with this
Your
record
time is up.
unemployment shit.
School choice for all of our
Thank you, Vice
I'd like to
President.
No, sit the
Senator
fuck
Harris.
down.
I will not sit here and be lectured by the vice president
Huh.
on what it means
To be
enforce
black.
the laws of our country. I am the only one on this stage
How about it?
who was personally prosecuted, everything from child sexual assault to homicide. I'm the only one on this stage who has prosecuted the big banks for taking advantage of America's homeowners. I'm the only one on this stage who prosecuted for-profit colleges for taking advantage of our veterans. And the reality of this is that we are talking about an election in 27 days, where last week, the President of the United States took a debate stage in front of 70 million Americans
You sure
and
did.
refused to condemn white supremacists.
Fact
And it wasn't
That's a
like he
fact.
didn't have a chance.
to say
He
something.
didn't do it, and then he doubled down.
Right.
And then he said, when pressed, stand back, stand by.
Hmm.
And this is a part of a pattern
For him.
of Donald Trump's.
That's because he is what he is.
He called Mexicans rapists and criminals. He instituted as his first act a Muslim ban. He, on the issue of Charlottesville, where people were peacefully protesting the need for racial justice, where a young woman was killed. And on the other side, there were neo-Nazis carrying tiki torches,
Thank
shouting
you. You will
racial
not know the
epithets,
Right.
anti-Semitic slurs. And Donald Trump, when asked about it, said there were fine people
On both sides.
This
Right.
is who we have as the President of the United States. In America, you deserve better. Joe Biden will be a president who brings our country together
Senator Harris.
and recognizes the beauty in our diversity and the fact that we all have
Thank
so
you.
much more in common than what separates us.
Vice President, can somebody give you a minute to respond?
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that very much. You know, I think this is one of the things that makes people dislike the media so much in this country, Susan. Is that you selectively edit, just like Senator
What?
Harris did.
It's like,
Comments that President
edited
Trump
what?
on our side of the aisle made. I mean,
no,
Senator Harris
that's
conveniently
bullshit.
omitted
Don't do
after the
that.
president made comments about people on either side of the debate over monuments. He condemned the KKK, neo-Nazis, and white supremacists, and has done so repeatedly.
No, he has not.
You're concerned that
Come
he doesn't
on, man.
condemn neo-Nazis. President Trump has Jewish grandchildren.
So what does that
His daughter and
mean?
son-in-law are Jewish.
What does that mean?
This is a president who respects and cherishes all of the
Or you tell that to the dog
But you
whistles
talk
and the
about having
dog
personal
bones he's
trust.
given
I'm
to
glad you brought up your records.
the
Thank you.
neo-Nazis.
But I really need to make this point. When you were DA in San Francisco, when you left office, African Americans were 19 times more likely to be prosecuted for minor drug offenses than whites and Hispanics. When you were Attorney General of California,
Thank you,
you
Vice President.
increased the disproportionate incarceration of
Thank you.
blacks in California.
Uh,
You did
this
nothing
is-
on
that's
criminal
that
justice reform in
same
California. You didn't
Crappy
lift a
bullshit
finger
that everybody
to
keep
pass
talking
first
about. They
amendment.
tell me I don't like her because of
The
this.
reality is your record
Thank
speaks
you,
for
Vice
itself.
President.
President Trump and I have fought.
Please, please let her
Thank you,
explain
Vice
her
President.
record. Please let her explain her record so we can shut
Thank
all
you,
this
sir.
up.
And we'll do it for 4
Thank you. You know, there is no more important issue than the final issue that we're going to talk about tonight, and that is the issue of the election
But
itself.
Susan, he attacked my record. I would like an opportunity
Please.
to respond.
Let me give you 30 seconds because we're running out of
I
time.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
First of all, having served as the Attorney General of the state of California, the work that I did is a model of what our nation needs to do, and we
Listen
will be able
closely,
to do
folks.
under the Joe Biden presidency. Our agenda includes what this administration has failed to do. It will be about not only instituting a ban on chokeholds and carotid holes,
Thank you.
not only,
Thank you, Senator.
I would
Harris.
like to go through,
These are points that you made earlier in the hour, and I want to talk about the election itself before we have to.
but I want to talk about the connection between what Joe and I will do and my record, which includes, I was the first statewide officer to institute a requirement that my agents would wear body cameras and keep them on full time. We were the first to initiate a requirement that there would be a training for law enforcement
girl,
on
what's that
implicit
got to do
bias,
with you?
because
Get
yes,
to your
Joe
record.
Biden and I recognize that implicit bias does exist, Mr. Vice President, contrary to what you may believe. We did the work of instituting reforms that were about investing in reentry. This is the work that we have done and the work we will do going forward. And again, I will not be lectured by the Vice President on our record of what we have done in terms of law enforcement and keeping our communities safe and a commitment to reforming the criminal justice system of America.
Thank you, Senator Harris. And I'd like to pose I'd like you to respond first to the question on our final topic, the election itself. President Trump has several times refused to commit himself to a peaceful transfer of power.
Because he's
after the
not.
election.
I don't know
If
why
your
y'all
ticket
keep looking
wins
for this
and
man
President
to
Trump refuses
be
to
like
accept
this stand-up
peaceful
citizen. He's
transfer of
not.
power, what steps would you and Vice President Biden then take? What would happen next? You have 2 minutes.
You are in charge of everything.
So
So you
I'll
send the
tell you,
military in there to get his ass.
Joe and I are particularly proud of the coalition that we've built around our campaign. We probably have one of the broadest coalitions of folks that you've ever seen in a presidential race. Of course, we have the support of Democrats, but also independents and Republicans. In fact, 7 members of President George W. Bush's cabinet are supporting our ticket. We have the support of Colin Powell, Cindy McCain, John Kasich, over 500 generals, retired generals, and former national security experts and advisors are supporting our campaign. And I believe they are doing that because they know that Joe Biden has a deep, deep-seated commitment to fight for our democracy and to fight for the integrity of our democracy and to bring integrity back to the White House. And so we believe in the American people. We believe in our democracy. And here's what I'd like to say to everybody. Vote. Please vote. Vote early. Come up with a plan to vote. Go to iwillvote.com. You can also go to joebiden.com. We have it within our power in these next 27 days to make the decision about what will be the course of our country for the next 4 years.
Yes,
And it is
yes,
within
yes.
our power. And if we use our vote and we use our voice, we will win. And we will not let anyone subvert our democracy with what Donald Trump has been doing, as he did on the debate stage last week,
Right.
when again in front of 70 million people, he openly attempted to suppress the
The
vote.
vote. He sure did.
Joe Biden, on the other hand, on that same debate stage, because clearly Donald Trump doesn't think he can run on a record because it's a failed record, Joe Biden on that stage said, hey, just please vote. So I'll repeat what Joe said. Please vote.
Thank you, Senator. Vice President Pence, President Trump has several times refused to commit himself to a peaceful transfer of power after the election. If Vice President Biden is declared the winner and President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power, what would be your role and responsibility as Vice President? What would you personally do? You have 2 minutes.
Well, Susan, first and foremost, I think we're going to win this election. Because while Joe Biden and Kamala Harris rattle off a long litany of the establishment in Washington, D.C., an establishment that Joe Biden's been a part of for 47 years, President Donald Trump has launched a movement of everyday Americans from every walk of life. And I have every confidence that those same Americans that delivered that historic victory in 2016, they see this president's record where we rebuild our military. We revived our economy through tax cuts and rolling back regulation, fighting for fair trade, unleashing American energy. We appointed conservatives to our federal courts at every level. And we
White conservatives.
law enforcement every single day. I think that movement of Americans.
Yeah, you stand with other criminals. Of course, you stand with law enforcement. Yeah, the criminals that commit violent acts among people of color.
Your party has spent the last 3.5 years trying
Who
to
kill them and get away with it.
Last election. It's amazing. When Joe Biden was vice president of the United States, the FBI actually spied on President Trump and Mike Pence.
Oh, come on. They didn't spy on the campaign. They spied on the Russians that were involved in the campaign. That's who they were spying on.
Documenting that those allegations were coming from the Hillary Clinton campaign. Of course, we've all seen the avalanche.
Come on, man. Please tell the truth.
You put the country through.
Because you're doing it again. The same reason why you have the Postmaster General messing with the post office so he could win.
And then Senator Harris, you and your colleagues in the Congress tried to impeach the President of the United States over a phone call. And now Hillary Clinton is actually
Because he was asking for political favors.
So let me just say, I think we're going to win this election. President Trump and I are fighting every day in courthouses to prevent Joe Biden and Kamala Harris from changing the rules and creating this universal mail-in voting to create a massive
Heinous.
He's such a piece. Gee, God.
We know we're going to have confidence in it, and I believe in all my heart that President Donald Trump is going to be reelected for 4 more years.
You know,
Well,
I've written all the questions that I've asked tonight, but for the final question of the debate, I'd like to read a question that someone else wrote. The Utah Debate Commission asked students in the state to write essays about what they would like to ask you. And I want to close tonight's debate with the question posed by Brecklin Brown. She's an 8th grader at Springville Junior High in Springville, Utah. And here's what she wrote, quote,
White.
when I watch the news, all I see is arguing between Democrats and Republicans. When I watch the news, all I see is citizen fighting against citizen. When I watch the news, all I see are 2 candidates from opposing parties trying to tear each other down. If our leaders can't get along, how are the citizens supposed to get along? And then she added, your examples could make all the difference to bring us together.
Well,
So to each of you in turn, I'd like you to take a minute.
well, your
and
parents
respond.
should be telling you that, first of all, it's the president that it
Brecklin, it's a
comes from the
election.
top. That's the first
And
part of the
let
discussion.
me just commend you for taking an interest in public life. I started following the news when I was very young. And in America, we believe in a free and open exchange of debate. We celebrate that.
You think
It's how
so?
we've created literally the freest and most prosperous nation in the history of the world. I would tell you that don't assume that what you're seeing on your local news networks is synonymous with the American people. You know, I look at the relationship between
Really?
Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the late justice who we just lost from the Supreme Court, and the late Justice Antonin Scalia. They were on polar opposites on the Supreme Court of the United States, one very liberal, one very conservative. But what's been learned since her passing was the 2 of them and their families were the very closest of friends. And here in America, we can disagree. We can debate vigorously, as Senator Harris and I have on this stage tonight. But when the debate is over, we come together as Americans. That's what people do in big cities and small towns all across this country.
No, they don't.
I want to tell you that we're
They
going to
don't.
work every day.
This is the reason why you see Karens and Kens running rampant through the country trying to tell other people where they belong and what neighborhoods they shouldn't be in. So please don't talk about this little
difficulties of this year.
whatever kind of
Senator Harris, what would you say
neighborhood
to that?
or utopia he's living in.
First of all, I love hearing from our young leaders. And when I hear her words, when I hear your words, Brecklin, I know our future is bright because it is that perspective on who we are and who we should be. That is a sign of leadership and is something we should all aspire to be. And that, that brings me to Joe. Joe Biden, one of the reasons that Joe decided to run for president is after Charlottesville, which we talked about earlier. It so troubled him and upset him like it did all of us, that there was that kind of hate and division. What propelled Joe to run for president was to see that over the course of the last 4 years, what Brecklin described has been happening. Joe has a long-standing reputation of working across the aisle and working in a bipartisan way. And that's what he's going to do as president. Joe Biden has a history of lifting people up. Brecklin, when you think, I do believe the future is bright. And it will be because of your leadership. And it will be because we fight for each person's voice through their vote. And we get engaged in this election because you have the ability through your work and through eventually your vote
Thank you,
to
Senator
determine
Harris.
the future of our country and what its leadership looks like.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Thank you, Vice President Pence. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. We want to thank also the University of Utah for its hospitality. And most of all, our thanks to all the Americans who watched this debate tonight. Again, our best wishes for a quick recovery to President Trump, the First Lady, and everyone who is battling COVID-19. The second presidential debate is next week on October 15th, a town hall style debate in Miami. We hope you'll join
Would they
us
still
then.
have it?
Good evening.
I personally don't think they'll still have it. All right, so there you have it. The first and only vice presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Mike Pence. I personally think it was far more informative than the presidential debate because, of course, Donald Trump himself is a character. And, Joe Biden shoots at the hip. So they're pretty much the same regardless of, of course, Donald Trump's far more animated. So this one's a little more about the facts and really getting the issues out for the American people to hear, know, and know the truth about. I wish she would have been more in detail about her record because that is the ticket that a lot of people talk about. Oh, she incarcerated far more African Americans than any other attorney general, which is not true. There have been plenty of others who have incarcerated far more people of color in the prison system than Kamala Harris. But because Kamala Harris is a woman of color, they like to throw that label upon her. And, it is what it is. But this was a good one. This was far more informative. Of course, he didn't answer any questions that he should have answered. He really did a lot of deflecting and going back and all that. The moderator, these moderators at this point, I am under the belief that, they are not to go hard and really moderate as they should. For some reason, I think that's maybe something that the president or his administration agrees upon in order for him to participate in the debates, because he doesn't necessarily have to participate. It's not a mandate for him to participate. So I think in order for him to participate, there are stipulations. And I think one of the stipulations is that, they kind of go easy and they don't, they let him talk or let them talk, and they tell them, your time's up, but they don't really enforce it too tough. So that's what I think it is, because this was totally ridiculous. If his time was up, his time was up. And if you don't have the power to mute his mic, then somebody in the production team should have the power to mute his mic. And vice versa. If her time's up too, then mute it. But the fact that wasn't done, I think that, it led me to believe that there's, some favoritism going on or just to get him to participate. Because again, the media side of this is about the numbers. So we have to make sure that we meet numbers. And of course, Donald Trump already thinks that he's a showman and that he's going to bring numbers regardless, or anybody attached to him will bring numbers. So I'm sure he comes with demands as far as the questions he's asked and the allotted time that he takes or is wants to answer a question. But like I said, this one was far more informative, which is why I didn't go to my trusty buttons, because Donald Trump is a whole character, and I really don't understand what people see in him. He is a race-baiting xenophobe, as Lady G called him once before. Now all of a sudden they best buddies, and that's just something like Miss Tita said this morning. And if you don't know her, please check her out. Tita Talks. She did a very interesting live early this morning on her way to go to the doctor. And it was basically talking about how, 1 minute people are, talking so bad about somebody, or you're saying all these things, and then the next minute you flip-flop, and now all of a sudden you're friends and you're so intertwined, and there's nothing, you don't think about nothing the person ever said about you, nothing about the disparaging things they've said about you in public and in private, but you still engage with them. And there's a problem with that, and it seems to spill out not only in YouTube but all the way into the world of politics. Where we have someone like Lady Graham, whose best friend, quote unquote, was the late Senator McCain. And for that to be your best friend, for you to have done so much together with that man, you traveled the world. I'm sure his family has invited you for holiday dinners and birthdays and last celebrations of John McCain's life. I'm sure you was there or somewhere in close proximity on the last breath that man took. And for you to take all that and trash it in the garbage to ensure what? Political power for yourself? This whole administration, I mean, granted, I'm not here to preach and tell you who to vote for, but this whole administration is crazy. Let alone, we know that there's Democrats on the other side too that have mindsets like Donald Trump, but that is why it is within our power to remove those folks. And if you have to remove those folks with people that, you don't really know their name, you don't really know what they stand for, they seem to be somebody new and different, and have different ideas, then so be it. Because a lot of these politicians, whether they be Republican and or Democrat, need to go anyway. Because as the country grows and younger people get older, these same old people, like the old guard trying to hold down kind of old administrative policies from years ago, times have changed. It's the same thing like the environment. The environment is changing. So we cannot do the same things that we used to do. Coaling and all that, it's becoming a thing of the past. For one, it's ruining the environment that we have. So how do we expect to live here if we continue to fuck up the planet? Now, I know, some wealthy people think, with him creating this Space Force, that they're just going to be able to get in a rocket and go live somewhere else. But for everyone else who would have to remain here, what are you signing up for? What are you signing up for? So really, we need to, this is nothing to play with. And again, like I said yesterday, a lot of people sit there and go, well, I'm not voting at all because I just don't see it. How? How could you not? How could you witness that man die in front of your eyes and say that you're not going to vote? How? How can you constantly see the black bodies die in front of our faces due to our cell phones? I'm not even talking about the civil rights movement and those bodies. I'm talking about the modern age technology, those bodies. That we could really sit there and watch other black people die and go, well, it don't really have nothing to do with me because that's not my personal relative. I don't know those people. But be the first ones to tell somebody that they should buy black and support black businesses and support black. Well, if you're going to support black across the board. That means when somebody's murdered, like a Breonna Taylor, then you support black and say, you know what, we need to change the laws. If the laws are made to protect the police officers from murdering our people, then we need to change those laws. And how do we change them? We get people in office that can change those laws. We don't try to sit here and go, well, I'm just going to hold my vote. I'm going to protest my vote because they don't do nothing for me anyway. Well, if you're sitting on your goddamn vote, you deserve everything you get. And so for those of you who choose not to vote, when you get pulled over, and God forbid, I hope you don't, but if you happen to get pulled over and it don't go the way you planned, and you're going to sit there and tell, well, you don't know who I am, you don't know me, oh, you should know who I am. You should know who I am. Do you know who you're rallying up? You could save it. You could save it because you deserve it. Because that's what you asked for. Vote or die is not just a slogan, not in this age, not in 2020. Vote or die is exactly what it means. Either you're going to vote or you're choosing to die. You make the choice. You make the choice. Because really, all this talk about everything else, it really don't even matter. Really don't even matter. You have people armed and ready to fire upon us for anything and use self-defense as a green light. You have the police given the green light to just go and shoot up and kill, like I said earlier. And it is very true. And I don't care what they try to cover up. Them police officers went in there thinking that man had drug money. And that was their whole purpose, to go in there and rack up on drugs and money. That's what narcotic units do. My biological father was a narcotics cop. I learned that later on in life, but it happens. They get involved in that whole unit and they're about that money. They see how much money these drug dealers and things make, and they become involved in that life. So they knew they figured, oh, this is the address he's using. He must have some money stashed there. Well, let's go get it. But they weren't expecting a man to be there with a gun. They were planning to kill her because their excuse on killing her was that she was a problem for the police. And then they used brutal force. That is why that one officer had two guns. He had the guns that the rest of the police officers had, and he also had a 9mm. And you talking about you stand by the law enforcement. How could you stand by law enforcement when the grand juror already said, the first one had already said that the DA did not give them all of the information? and basically told them to their face they're not supposed to prosecute the other two officers, just this one officer. So based on the one officer information that they were given, they delivered a verdict. But the city and the state of Louisville, Kentucky knew it. They knew it. But what would happen is, if they went to trial with all this information, if the family continued to push, they would have to expose all that information. And they would have kind of worked it to where in which they would have made Breonna Taylor look like, as they always do, some kind of mule for her ex-boyfriend, where she was holding drugs and trafficking drugs for him and all this other kind of mess. And that's how they was going to be able to skate out of it. But because there was so much pressure on them to do something after so many days and months of trying to create this whole narrative of what happened, they decided, oh, let's throw some money, it'll go away. Because what we do is we're angry to a point, and then we back off. And when we back off and we let our guard down just a tad and go to the next story or the next killing, what do? Oh, then they come right in. And they get bail paid and everything happens. And we sitting up there, he getting out? How is he getting out off $1 million? Oh, yeah, because while he's sitting there, you got all these people creating GoFundMes, and people are putting in thousands upon hundreds and thousands of dollars to free this man. I mean, we can do that, but yet you set up a GoFundMe to release somebody who's been imprisoned wrongly, and GoFundMe will shut your shit down quicker than you think for whatever reason. But he just raised $1 million. Yeah. So I mean, come on, like we can't sit here and like act like our vote does not matter. Our vote does matter, but it all depends on how you use it. You know, we sit here and we talk a good game, and some of us really have huge platforms and big voices, and we sit here and go, well, I'm not voting because, none of the parties see it for us. We need to come up with our own party. Then do it, damn it, do it. You sound like, for me, you sound just as hypocritical as the Trump administration, asking for 4 more years to do what that you haven't done in 4. I'm going to say that again. What do you need to do in 4 more that you haven't done in 4? Make it make sense. So if you feel like the Democratic nor the Republican Party is a party for you, then why haven't you started a third party with suitable candidates? Suitable candidates. Now, I don't want to see the Al Sharptons of the world or the whomever else standing on the street corner trying to preach to me the 5% of rules. No. You need a viable candidate. You already know who you're dealing with. So if you're going to try to compete in that kind of atmosphere, then you need a Barack. You need that kind of person. And when you can find them and you can get them, then you'll be working with something. But right now, all that's just talking. You're talking mess. You really are talking mess. And yet I don't see anybody at no town halls. I don't see anybody really fighting in the actual places where you need to fight. No, I just see you guys, at the protest talking about no justice, no peace, no justice, no peace. And then some of you going back and creating GoFundMes and all these kind of things because you may have went to high school or worked with the man or woman who was killed and making money off of their name and not even giving any of it to the family or even saying, hey, is it okay if I do such and such? No, you just do it. But then you'll sit here and say, oh, well, I'm not going to vote. How can we sit here and watch these people die and say, well, we're not going to vote? How? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, we sit here and talk all the time. When I watch 12 Years a Slave or any other slave depicted movie, and I sit here and say, now how could so many people, millions upon millions, be enslaved, and only a small handful of people actually say, you know what, this shit ain't for me. I'm not doing this no more. And took it upon themselves to say, no more, I'm not doing this. And actually fought back against their slave masters, killing them if they needed to. Millions of slaves, and only a handful of slaves actually did that. And then I look at us, millions of people, yet only making up 13%, even less now, and growing, and depleting rather, 13% of the population. And only a handful of us are really active in voting and trying to make a change. But everybody has something to say about what we should be doing with our money and our capital. So I'm confused. Help me understand, because I don't get it. You got the people with the money who are part of the community, move out the community and do nothing to kind of give it back to the community. But on Turkey Day, you rent a truck, buy a whole bunch of turkeys that you can, in fact, write off as a tax write-off anyway, as a charitable donation, and hand them out to the community. Whoop-de-fucking-do that they have to go back into the community and cook a damn turkey on what? With what electricity if their lights and shit is cut off? With what? But see, we're not thinking about that, because that's not nothing to think about. All you thinking about is giving the kids book bags filled with stuff so they can go to school. Okay, but you're giving them that. They don't have any clothes to go to school. They don't have proper sneakers to go to school. So they got a book bag full of shit, but no clothes, no clean water. So like, what the hell are we doing? And yet they looking at you on TV praising exactly what you're doing, because that's the life. If I bounce my ass around enough and bounce this wet ass poo-tang, as they call it, if I bounce this around enough, I can get somebody to buy me all this stuff. This is, you know, granted, on one end is independence, but on the other end, this is what you're saying too. It's almost like a double thing. It's a double entendre. On one end, yeah, you're saying you can be a woman and be voiceful and be proud of yourself and be proud of your sexuality and all that stuff. But at the same time, you are saying too, hey, if I throw this at you, it's a price. You got to pay for it. So, you know, if the price is right, you can get it. Why do we need to do that? It's auction block. That's auction block stuff. What are we talking about? You don't think that they stood on some of these corners that we cross the street and don't think about it? But do you know that some of the streets you cross, that very corner that you're standing on, waiting for the cars to go by, waiting for that light to change before you cross the street, there was some auction blocks standing right there, and there was a slave standing there being auctioned off to the bidder? This shit is like, it's really, you know, it stuns me. The level of what we choose to forget, what we choose not to remember, what we choose to gloss over, and the stuff we choose to pay attention to. We choose to pay attention to the smallest of details. We choose to pay attention to the fact that, oh, Barack Obama didn't do nothing for black people. Okay, if you think so, well, let's go back and do the research and know that, well, hell, the person that asked him to run and thought it would be a good idea thought it was a joke. The senator out of Las Vegas, out of Nevada, what is his name? Gosh, I can't think of his name. It'll come to me. But he thought it was a joke. But he asked him, hey, you should think about running. And of course, Barack probably was like, maybe not. Talked it over with Michelle. It's probably his ambition anyway. So yeah, he went with it. But you don't think that they met him with opposition at every turn? Because at the end of the day, whether they're Democrat or Republican, they're still white. So they can talk all that inclusive talk that they want, but trust and believe. But so far, they'll let anybody go. That glass ceiling is there. It's very present. It's always present. Why do you think this man had no kind of scandals going on in his White House? For a reason. Not because he didn't want to, not because he probably didn't want to dip off somewhere with Michelle or do something crazy or say something crazy. It's like, no, because he couldn't. He could not. Because if he did something too much that was too black, they'd be sitting there, oh, see, he's the president for black people. Let's get him out of here. Because he's focusing too much on black issues. And then we sitting over here, oh, he's doing too much for white people. Oh, he ain't doing nothing for us. Oh, he's doing too much for the gay folks. He ain't doing nothing for us. I'll wait. I'll wait. Because at the end of the day, he didn't do shit for too much for anybody black because he couldn't. Because you still had a Senate that was full of white folks. Because, of course, the midterms came around and nobody literally came out to support and protect his vote, protect the vote that you voted for. Because you figure, well, it's not a presidential election, so I'm not even going to vote. And that's what you did. So you failed him. He didn't fail you. You failed him. So when you start talking that BS about what this one didn't do, what that one didn't do, when it was time for you to show up, you didn't. So you failed him. So whatever he was trying to do for the justice system, whatever he was trying to do for Black America, he wouldn't have been able to do because you didn't support him when he was trying to do it. So if Black Lives Matter, let them matter all the time, through everything, not just certain things, but through everything. All right, and with that, I have you guys for hanging out. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Please make sure that you hit the like button. Please, 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 please. It's not just for nothing. It is for something. What I do is try to get true word out there, true thought provoking discussions out. So hitting that thumbs up button does help because it, helps us get the word out to others. And even if you have a difference of opinion, if it's sound, I don't mind going back and forth because that's what this is. There may be a point you may raise and I'll go, you know what? I didn't think about that. But when it's BS, when it's just something that, oh, this one did this, it's like, okay, well, tell me some backstory. When you know backstory about something, it brings everything present. It makes it much clearer. When you don't know backstory and you're just talking about what you see, it's muddled to me. It's like, okay, but do you know what was going on behind the scenes back for the reason for that? Then that makes sense. And I think a lot of times we need to do that. We need to step back and know, hey, what's the history behind that? We're so brainwashed with, oh, let your history go. Forget about it. It has no, we've moved so far past that. Yeah, you think so. You think so. I bet you if they digged up a lot of folks that went through a lot of this shit back in the day, if you dug them up now and had them sit around all this shit, they'll sit there and say, oh, no, it's pretty much the same. I mean, you can do more things than we could, but it's pretty much the same. So, with that, that's all I have. So good night, everybody. Peace, love, and hair grease. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And until tomorrow, I guess I will see you guys. Be blessed. Have a great night. Be safe. Thanks to my moderators. Thank you guys for holding down the fort. And with that, I am out. Peace.